part of this section is about air resistance. So, what is the idea of air resistance? Let's focus on activity 11.9. Now, if you use a simple paper card or A4 paper and you hold it vertically and try to flap it side to side, just like what we have in this diagram, you find that, okay, it's hard to move the card. However, if we change the position of the card and make it horizontally, and then we try to make it flap side to side again, it is much easier to flap the card. So what we have here is that if an object moves in air, there will be an opposite force acts on the object, and this force we name it as air resistance. So no matter you ride a bicycle just like here, or you try to run, okay, with a parachute at the back, try to have a running training, all of them will create air resistance. And it's again just like the friction, it opposes to the motion of the air resistance will oppose to the direction you're moving. So that means air resistance will again oppose the motion of a moving object moving in air. So of course, and on when you are in water, okay, when you swim, the resistance is not called air resistance. It's called fluid resistance. So let's have a check from here. So for friction, is a contact force is yes because there will be two surfaces in contact. Friction acts on moving objects only is wrong. Okay, when you standing on the floor, actually you are having some friction between your shoes and the floor, and also if you place a chair on the floor, is again there will be friction when two objects close in contact. And that resistance experience a moving object increases with its speed. Yes, that means if you make a pushing force to the chair, you find that the friction will be larger, and also the air resistance. So let's have this. Okay, you need to draw an arrow to show the friction. Okay, the friction will be opposed to the direction of your motion. So, in order to learn more about friction and air resistance, okay, we will try to reduce the friction and air resistance. So how to reduce it? Okay, let's have an experiment 11.9. We try to have some idea about reducing the friction. For part A, we try to add a lubricant. Please remember how to spell this word. Now we have a puck, okay, placed in a plastic tray, and then we give a push on it. You find that it's rather difficult to make it move because the friction is a bit large. And if we place some soapy water and then you try to repeat the step one again, you find that it is now much easier to move the plug. And why we have this? Because the friction is reduced by the soapy water. So next, we use the same plugger and try to move on the desk, and you find that again it's very hard to push it, and it actually doesn't move because of the friction. Now, if we blow up a balloon and then put it on the plug, and then you try to move the plug again, you find that it's much easier because the air coming out from the balloon will make some separation between the floor and the plug, and the friction will be greatly reduced. So, how to explain again? This part is very important. Okay, how to explain the friction is reduced because air blows out. Okay, and then forms a layer of air under the puck, which separates the puck at the bench. And eventually, the friction is reduced so that you give a very small push on the puck and it will move much easier. So, besides using soapy water or a layer of air, you try to use some marbles for part C. So again, the same situation in part A is hard to push the puck, right? So in order to make it easier, we try to add some marbles between the puck and the plastic balls. So you find that the puck will move much easier. And again, why we have this? Because the friction is greatly reduced. Why greatly reduced? Because the top, the surface, okay, we add some marbles on top of it, in between the puck and also the floor, and you'll find that there will be much less contact surface area between the puck and the plastic box, and that's why the friction is greatly reduced. So here we have another activity which trying to find out the air resistance, and we try to put our rectangular paper box and make a paper helping, just like what we will have in the activity very soon. And which one will reaches the ground first? You'll find that the paper airplane will reach the ground uh, faster. So why we have this? Because the paper airplane with smaller air resistance. So if you draw the arrows, you'll find that larger surface area will have a larger air resistance, and you find that the paper plane, okay, the air can make some turns so that the air resistance on the paper plane will be less. So another activity is we try to make it into paper cones, the vertex at the bottom or the vertex on the top, and of course, again, the air resistance on the left hand side, you'll find that the cone points down will reaches the ground first because the air resistance is less. Okay, and we say this as a streamline, and we will discuss it later. And for the vertex on the top, you'll find that there will be larger air resistance uh, hitting on the cone. And of course, it will have a larger resistance and it needs a longer time to go to the ground. So here we just focus on the heading again, and to reduce the friction or air resistance, okay, we try to use lubricants. Okay, lubricants may be soapy water or lubricating oil. And somehow for lubricating oil using here, okay, it can prevent the metal from the iron from rusting. Rusting in Chinese is 生鏽. And another method to reduce the resistance, okay, is by means of air occlusion, just like the experiment at part 2. Okay, we try to float the object on top of the surface by means of a first, maybe air. For this part is called electromagnet. Okay, because there will be different magnetic pole here, maybe N, and then they repel each other to uh, make the train just like froze on top of the wheel, and then it can move much faster. And of course, there will be another measure that we can use to reduce the resistance, okay, on the ship, which will blow out some air, okay, which is in use of a jet fuel. So of course, when we push the air outside, okay, there will be less contact with the ship between the ship and the water. Now here another game. Okay, I think most of you played this before. It's called air hockey. Okay, and then you find that there will be many tiny holes here, and then blow out some air, and then the disc on top of it will have much less friction, and you hit it will move very fast. And then we try to use another measures is called rolling object. For rolling object, just like what we have in the experiment related to marbles, and we try to have some rollers or ball bearings to make the contact surface area less, and then reduce the friction. So just what I mentioned before is related to streamlining of the shapes of an object, just like the train. You'll find that the sharp points here will reduce the air resistance, just like the plane and also the motorcycle, the helmet, and also the bike, okay, reduce the air resistance by streamlining, okay. Streamlining, that means 流線型. So here is what the key point for this session is that friction can be reduced by using lubricants, separating surfaces with air cushion, or using rolling objects. And air resistance can be reduced by streamlined shapes. So here is the end of 11.4.